Okay, may I know yung mga nandito? Okay, may I know yung mga nandito? Okay, let's start. So, our topic would be literary criticism. Uh, just what I've mentioned before, for the second quarter, you will be again writing your analysis essays. So, for this time, the essay would make use, or you will be making use of a theory in analyzing a certain text. Okay, so it is here where our topic on literary criticism comes in. So when we say literary criticism came from the Greek word krites, which means to judge. So basically, pag sinabi nating criticism, you are not just here to read a text. You're not just here for pure entertainment, but rather you are here to give light, or let's say what would be your understanding of a certain text based on a theory. Okay. So it is a disintegrated endeavor to learn and propagate the best that is known and thought in the world. So it's a disciplined activity that attempts to study, analyze, interpret, and evaluate a work of art. So for literary criticism, these are the things that you have to do. Okay, you are going to analyze. Ito yung mga gagawin nyo. You're going to interpret, and you are going to evaluate. Okay. So, ito yung mga gagawin nyo sa text. So, when we speak of analyzing a text, interpreting a text, evaluating a text, it's more on just plainly reading the text. It's going beyond what the text would contain. Ano ba yung mga, are there issues? Are there issues in the text? What are elements that are very important in analyzing the text. So yun yung mga titignan nyo. Hindi lang sa text mismo, you're not just confined into looking at a text based on its elements, but of course you could do a wider scope of reading the text, that is providing the context, what are the surrounding circumstances in a text. Okay, next. It's also a careful application of theory in the analysis and evaluation of literary works. Yun yung sinasabi ko kanina na before, we do not mind about theories. We did in some of our topics before, unconsciously ginagamitan natin siya ng theory. Pero ngayon mas ano na siya, parang mas clear na yung or na-establish na yung analysis natin based on a certain theory. Okay. So there are under literary criticism, meron tayong tinatawag na theoretical criticism and the applied or the practical criticism. Anong pinagkaiba ng dalawang to? Okay? So, between theoretical and applied. Okay? So, gagamitin natin itong dalawa para ma-achieve natin yung tinatawag nating analysis. Okay? Pag sinabi nating theoretical criticism, this is a part or the main concern of literary criticism is to provide the theories. What else? The principles. Ano pa? It also would provide the basic assumptions. Okay, on how to read a text. Now, pag sinabi naman natin applied criticism, this already the what? The application. Okay. This already the application of the different theories, principles, basic assumptions given by theoretical criticism. So, ang applied criticism, it's more on the what? Practical use. Practical use of theories in analyzing a text. Okay? Questions? Paano yung mga walang load kung sakali? Sa chat, yung mga walang load na pang-nood. So, sa chat na lang, mag one-on-one. Okay. So, theoretical criticism formulates theories, principles, and tenets regarding the nature and value of art. So, by citing general aesthetic and moral principles of art, theoretical criticism provides the necessary framework for practical criticism. So, yun nga yung sinasabi ko kanina that theoretical criticism provides the framework. Okay? It provides the framework. How are we going to analyze a text? What are the steps? What are the key elements that we should focus on? Yun yung binibigay ni theoretical criticism. Okay, sabi ko nga, the application of everything that is given by theoretical criticism, yun na yung trabaho ni applied criticism. Okay, that's why we call it the practical, also known as the practical criticism, because it's already, it tries to yung ano kasi, yung parang role ni applied criticism is basically on the use. Okay, how are we going to use these theories, principles, assumptions given by theoretical criticism in analyzing a certain text? So, it is the practical critic who defines the standards of taste, explains, evaluates, or justifies a particular piece of literature, of course, using the different theories provided by theoretical criticism. Okay. How about literary theory? So papunta na tayo. Kanina, pinaka-general literary criticism, and then we talk about theoretical criticism and how theoretical criticism provides the framework, basic assumptions, theories, principles that is carried out in the applied criticism. Now, ano yung tinatawag nating mga theories? Ano ba yung mga assumptions na sinasabi ko? Okay? Yun yung gagamitin natin in analyzing a text. How is it important? Ano yung importance ng literary theory? Okay. And what is a literary theory? So, a literary theory is an assumption or a system of assumptions, accepted principles, and rules of procedure. I always wanted to highlight this idea that a literary theory is actually like a rule book. Rules of procedure. Okay. Yan. Meron tayo doon yung word na procedure. So, pag sinabi nating procedure, so, this would be as the different steps. Okay. The different steps in analyzing a text. Kasi, there are a lot of different literary theories that we have, and each literary theory would give us a different procedure, or it would entail different steps in analyzing the text. Say for example, for feminism, it would center on key issues of women and how women were actually the subject of discrimination in a patriarchal society. So yun yung steps, yun yung procedures for feminism, for feminist literary theory. Ibang procedures or ibang steps naman ang meron kung ang pag-usap or ang gagamitin natin is, for example, post-colonialism. So iba naman yung set of procedures. Okay? So, this would explain the nature or behavior of literature, including description, analysis, interpretation, and evaluation of literary works. So, basically, when we speak about literary theory, it's a system of reading. It's a system of reading, understanding, and judging a work. So, yun. It's a system of reading. So, sabi ko nga kanina, depende. Okay? Depende sa theory na gagamitin mo yung pagbabasa mo na isang text. Your understanding of a certain text depends on the literary theory that you're going to use. Okay? So, your judgment would depend on the theory that you're going to use. Ganun lang naman yun. Next. So the capacity to generalize about a phenomenon and to develop a concept that form the basis of interpretation and analysis, in this instance of a literary text. So a literary theory is actually a name given to a range of disparate critical practices and approaches. So these are different critical approaches and practices in judging a certain work. Okay. Okay. Yan. So, questions. It's a way of reading. It's a manner of interpreting our world and the text which comprise the world. Okay. Questions. Do you have questions? 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 How many literary theories will we study, sir? Siguro yung literary theory na gagamitin natin, 6. Maybe we could have 6. Medyo subjective talaga, sir. Depende. Depende sa theory, yung subjectivity ng analysis. 6 to 8 siguro. 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 Okay, we move on. Ay, pang ano lang to ha, pang mga 21st century literature. Bukas ata yung pang creative nonfiction. So, how are we going to carry out this analysis of a certain text? So, we have a work here. Okay, for this case, we have okay. So, then this work will I mean, using the different theories, so subject for literary analysis, in order for us to come up with our interpretation. Ganun lang naman yan. Okay? So, there should always be a work. For this one, it's a literary text. Yan. Na mag-undergo ng literary analysis. And after that process, we would come up with our interpretation. Twenty-first century lit to, hindi to creative nonfiction. So, this is for STEM 12A, STEM 12I, and STEM 12K. Supposed to be STEM 12K kasi ngayon yung oras namin. So ito na yung medyo madaming nagkamali sa assignment. The different and common critical approaches that are used in reading a text. So what is the importance of these approaches in understanding a text? Okay. The first one, we have what we call close reading. Ano yung tinatawag nating close reading? Okay. Close reading concerns close attention to textual details with respect to elements such as setting, characterization, point of view, figuration, diction, rhetorical style, tone, rhythm, plot, and allusion. Often, close reading concerns the dichotomy between what the literary text says and what can be inferred. So, pag sinabi natin close reading, ganito lang yan. Okay, as a reader, you have to focus your attention on the different elements. Okay, so you have to pay attention on the different elements of the text, such as figures of speech, new speaker, the audience, the initial situation, what else, the point of view, the diction, the language, the different elements of plot. Yung mga yun yung titignan nyo pag close reading. So, by understanding the different elements of a certain text, you are actually doing close reading. Looking at the different elements that comprise a text. That's close reading. Often, we use this one when we discuss the different poems last quarter. So, we did a close reading. Okay. What else? We also have contextual analysis. The other critical reading practice is the contextual Itong mga to, pwede nyong gawin to when you analyze a text. Okay? Also known as the connect the dot approach, because essentially the technique involves the establishment of a context within which to situate and determine the meaning of the work. Okay? So, when you do contextual analysis, so you have the text here, you have to consider the context or the surrounding circumstances. Okay? Or what are the situations that could affect the text. Yun yung contextual analysis. Kaya nga tinawag na contextual kasi the context is used, or the context may provide an understanding or may affect our analysis of a text. Yung kanina sa my close reading, the different elements of the text affect our analysis. For contextual analysis, it's the context. Okay? So when we read a text, pwede din na we analyze it based on the context. Or when we read a text, when we analyze a text and we consider the context, we are actually doing a contextual analysis. Okay. Next one is the application of a critical approach. I think this is the most systematic of all. Okay, the application of an approach. So, anong approach? Ano yung approach na sinasabi dito? So, the application of an approach means you're going to use already a theory. Okay? You're going to use a body of work. So, ito yung gagamitin natin. Ito yung gagawin natin. Okay? So, when you read a text and you make use of a theory to understand better the text, you're actually doing this critical reading practice. That is the application of a critical approach. And of course, the last one is social criticism. Ano naman yung tinatawag nating social criticism? Okay. It's the interpretation of literature of any period, okay, are often politically motivated by critics who are reading literature for the sake of responding to current affairs in the world or for the sake of modeling a sociological theory. So, sociological criticism, para siyang it's closely related to, how do you call that one? It's closely related to connect the dot approach, the contextual analysis. It's just that social criticism focuses more on the social relevance of a text. How the social conditions of a text affect our interpretation of the text. Yun naman ang social criticism. Okay? So yun. So those are the different common critical practices. So we have the contextual analysis, social criticism, the use of critical approach, and close reading. So, are there any questions for the different common literary practices? Questions? Yes, Shan. When we speak about application of critical approach, it's already the analysis of a text using the different theories like feminism, Marxism, post-colonialism, formalism, and so on. So, yun yung gagawin natin. The application of critical approaches. Well, of course, you could always do the other critical reading practices like close reading, especially when we use formalism. Okay? Contextual analysis, gagamitin nyo din yung contextual analysis and even so, social criticism. Okay? Gagamitin lahat natin yon yung apat na critical practices na yon. Okay? Meron pa bang tanong? Before we move on to our main lesson, the first literary theory that we're going to discuss. Okay, if you think you're already ready for the next topic, please send a thumbs up. Okay. So, for the different common literary theories, I hope fina-follow nyo yung yung module natin. Yun din yung fina-follow ko kasi yung the module that I gave you. Okay? For the different common literary theories, ayun na, papunta na tayo sa theories. We will be talking about new criticism, reader response criticism, structuralism. We will even do deconstruction. Okay, wait for load. Okay. Deconstruction, what else? Psychoanalysis, feminism, Marxism, postcolonialism, and existentialism. So those are the different theories, common literary theories that are used in analyzing a text. Sir, meron po ba yan sa libro? Yes, meron to sa libro at the last part of your book. Pero hindi siya ganun ka-comprehensive. Parang pahapyaw lang siya. Okay. So, the first theory is formalism. Okay. Makinig. Yan. So, meron tayong the first one, letter A. Formalism. Okay. Formalism stresses the importance of a literary form to the meaning of a work. So, formalist scholars consider each work of literature in isolation. Pag sinabi nating each work is in isolation, ano kayang ibig sabihin ng isolation na to? So, for formalism, it posits that a text is in isolation because when we speak about this theory, ang sinasabi niya is what you only need is the text. Ito yung pinaka-importante. The text is the most important element in this theory. Bakit kaya? Okay? So they consider biographical, historical, and social matters to be irrelevant to the real meaning of a play, short story, novel, or poem. Kaya siya tinawag na isolation. In isolation kasi nga, okay, you are going to isolate the text. Parang yung text dito lang siya. Walang pakialam yung biographical background ng text, the historical background, or even social matters or social influences or social background of the text. Okay? Wala siyang pakialam. Kasi nga, for formalism, yung text lang yung kailangan mo. Hindi mo kailangan malaman kung sino yung author. Hindi mo kailangan malaman yung historical background of the text and even the social background of the text. Okay? Kaya siya tinawag na in isolation. Okay? So, it does not represent a coherent body of critical theory. These are the basic assumptions. Ano ba yung principles? What are the different principles in formalism? First, it's the scientific approach focused on the literariness which can be found on the level of form rather than content. Okay. First basic assumption. The first one, okay, the literariness. Okay. Ano yung tinatawag nating literariness? So, according to formalist scholars, we focus on the form rather than on the content. Siguro, the content comes next after the form. Yun yung kaya nga literariness. What makes the text literary? So, pag sinabi nating literariness, we focus on the different literary elements. Okay? What are the different elements that can we use in analyzing the text? By identifying these elements, okay, we are actually providing the literariness of the text. So we consider first the form of the text in order for us to determine the meaning of the text. Okay. Next assumption. Okay. A text is the sum total of its devices, form, and content cannot be separated. Yun yung sinasabi ko that it's the form that provides the content or what does the text mean. Okay? So, identifying the content of the text depends on, or the content of a text depends on the form. So, ano yung form na to? Ulitin na naman natin. Yung form na to is actually the different elements. Okay? What are the different elements in that text? And by identifying these elements, dun mo i-anchor yung analysis mo ng text. Yun yung sa may formalism. Okay? Ayan. So, sabi ng formalism, okay, remember this one, meaning resides in the text and not the reader. So therefore, okay, the text is the sole maker of meaning. So hindi mo ipupush yung subjective valuation mo as a reader towards the text. It's the text that gives the meaning. So paano nangyari yon na it's the text which identifies the meaning of the text? So, yun nga, nakadepende yung kahulugan or yung meaning ng text sa different elements ng text. Yun ang formalism. What are the different formal elements of the text? Okay? Tapos yung formal elements ng text na to, yun yung gagamitin natin sa pag-analyze. Okay? Okay? Or in short, pag formalism, ang bida, yung text. Okay? Yung bida, yung text. It's only, and it's the text that provides the meaning of itself. Okay? So, we do not need any background information about the text. Basta ang focus lang natin is how these elements of the text can be used in analyzing the text. So, most often than not, ito yung how do you call that one? Ito yung kadalasang pinapagamit sa mga students na theory, especially kung hindi available yung background ng author, what else, hindi available yung or there are no available historical backgrounds of the text. Yun yung kagandahan ng theory na to. Since we focus more on the different elements, so the kind of interpretation that we have is more of an objective interpretation. Okay? So, ang for formalism, objective interpretation siya. Since ang panggagalingan ng analysis ay sa text mismo. So, walang pakialam yung personal biases mo or what else, kasi nga yung text na mismo yung mag-identify or mag-guide sa'yo kung paano mo siya i-analyze. Yun naman ang formalism. Okay? It's more on the objective interpretation. Okay? It's more on the objective interpretation of a text. Question. Questions? Okay, are there more questions? Questions? None? Yes, bukas na yung deadline ng text analysis. Questions? No more questions? If you still have questions, please ask them in our individual group chats per class. Okay? So that's the end of my discussion.